start the show.
What was that?
I didn't
Hey,
hear
let's
that.
start the show.
Here we go.
It's August 15th, 2013. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Joining me as always. Wait, you're not Norm.
No, I'm not.
You're at Loyd Case. You're in
Hi.
Norm's seat. This is the whole 181 episodes.
The universe has changed.
This has never happened before.
Well, we've only been podcasting here for
100
a year.
It's 86 episodes.
You sat down first, Lloyd. You need
Yes.
more. You needed more table
You
space.
dibsed. Yeah.
I did.
Well, Norm's by the Batmobile, and you're by a bunch of board games, which I know we're going to talk about soon.
We'll talk about it later.
Your dungeon roll came already. My dungeon roll hasn't come
Yes,
yet.
this is the one with the, the
Is that the
mimic box.
Kickstarter?
Yeah, that was the Kickstarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
We played the very early edition of that.
Yeah.
Before there was any packaging or permanent decals.
Right.
Yeah,
It was
when
a fun game. I like that box though.
Yes.
The dice had stickers on them. Like
great.
they were just a couple
Well,
more
it is-
sharpied on.
Yeah, it is one of those games with all these different kind of dice.
It's well, we'll talk about it later. But
Yeah.
you said something kind of provocative right before we started the show.
What's that?
Which was that you think that the cloud marks the end of the human race.
I'm just
And you were
commenting
watching-
on the fact that well, with all the stuff that's been going on about the NSA and snooping and all these cloud services, which are these big companies that have allowed snooping, not just by the NSA, by the way, by other governments as well, as we found out from France.
It
and-
turns out everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
So,
saying having your data not in your direct control,
Right. Is maybe not be such a great idea.
or having your devices internet connected to everything.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, so the one about the fact that if you have an internet-controlled light bulb, it can be hacked.
Your
Yeah.
CPUs can be hacked.
I've thought about that because I've been testing out the smart things that it's a Z-Wave / Zigbee / a couple of other things, like home automation controller that actually was built. The idea is that instead of usually those things are built by hardware engineers and then
Right.
the software is really terrible and you have these like 300 button remotes, is that they would have people who actually know how to make good software build the apps and
They would design the hardware around that.
and design the hardware around
Okay.
that, and also use multiple types of protocols
Right.
in one device, so you don't have like 3 different controllers.
Oh, okay.
Which and it works really well.
What
but-
protocols are available?
Zigbee and Z-Wave, and there's something else that I can't remember what it's called. And I
So
have
what
nothing
are the
that
important
uses.
ones that are not available?
Z-Wave is the one that most like light switches and stuff
Right.
use. Zigbee seems to be the one that like moisture sensors for your basement and a lot of like thermostats and stuff like
Right.
that use Zigbee. And I think a lot of that's regional. So like it seems like in the U.S. you can go to Lowe's and Home Depot and buy Z-Wave switches.
Right.
But I don't think that's the case in Europe and other places. But so I'm thinking about it though, and like there is a web service out there running someplace that if my password is bad enough or if it gets broken in general,
Right.
random people on the internet will be able to turn on and off the lights in my
Hey,
house.
why do you need that?
I'm not sure. I just when
No,
we-
I know why you don't need the random people turning your lights on and off, but why do you need the ability to turn your lights on and off from somewhere else?
So this is one of those things that like the way it works in your head and the way it works in the real world are different.
Right.
Because in my head, I was thinking, it's going to be like Star Trek, where the Captain Picard walks into the room and the lights come up gently, and the house is
you
like,
don't need
hey.
you need to be connected via IP to do that kind of stuff. though.
I understand this. But the other thing is you get the ability to turn on and off. So you can have lamps,
Right.
like a grown-up in your house, and not use the overheads, but have switches that control the lamps.
Right.
That's the benefit of using this.
Nothing wrong with overheads.
I am admittedly speaking as someone who owns a Nest thermostat. I can control my.
Yeah,
my
you're
furnace from the
you're a
house.
Nest owner.
You're right.
Well, I don't have air conditioning. My heating system in my house is so primitive, it won't work with the Nest.
Oh, okay.
It's the 5 millivolt thing.
But you also live in a part of the Bay Area where you need air conditioning. Like
Sometimes.
San Francisco.
Yeah,
you don't
I would
really need air
say,
conditioning.
2 to 3 weeks out of the year we need air conditioning.
We have maybe 3 days a year in Pacifica that we need AC. But okay. So in reality, what happens is anytime I want to turn on and off the lamps in the living room, I have to pick up my phone, which sucks. So this is where we're ending up with this whole project.
Well, you see, one of the things that we had, like when we did our kitchen remodel, we thought about the whole idea of remote switches and all that stuff. Instead, I just put switches everywhere. So, you walk from the living room, you can turn on the kitchen lights.
It turns out
the stairs, you can turn on the kitchen light.
It turns out that the old manual way is, but
Much easier.
you also had the benefit of tearing out all your walls and stuff,
That's
so it was
true.
easy to put switches in.
Right.
And then the switches now are the big fat ones, not the small ones. You can use your elbow if you're holding something.
That's correct.
So they're the momentary tap switches.
No.
no,
Well,
no,
actually,
they're
I can
just-
tell you
they're
that most of them are just the classic,
the
rocker switch,
rocker,
right?
the big
Yeah.
rocker.
Yeah. Now we do have a momentary tap switch that controls 2 LED floods right
like
over
a
the
dimmer?
sink. Yeah, right over the sink. But that's because you really kind of don't want a physical switch where it's going to get wet easily. But
So yeah, the problem with the way this stuff works in practice is that either you have to convert everything in your house, including all of the plugs
Right.
and all of the like if you don't have a place you can change a plug,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to put in smart bulbs or something like that because it'll
Right.
work. This will control the hue stuff as well. But in reality, it's just way more of a pain in the ass than hitting a switch.
Right.
I think where it's going to end up for me is that I'll set a couple of switches that just control the lamps in a room,
Mm-hmm.
as if you had controlled receptacles, which I don't have, but are kind of nice, so that you can hit one switch, it'll turn on all the lamps,
Right.
and then that works because I don't have overhead lighting in the living room.
I have proud owner of 0 lamps.
But you're
Proud owner of 0 lamps.
with all the goofballs that live in your house, though, lamps would be destroyed in no time.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
don't blame them. Proud owner of 0
Oh,
lamps.
okay, you're just a pure overhead.
Your overhead,
fluorescent.
love floodlights.
Don't you use those halogen ones that cost a lot
do you
of
do-
money?
what do you have next to your bed?
Electricity.
Next, I have I have 2 overheads. next to
Okay.
my bed.
Really, you don't even have a reading light?
I have 2 reading lights that are
Oh, built
mounted.
into the-
Yeah.
okay.
And then I have those, what do you call them? Not strip lights. That I have a halogen on rails
Okay.
Yeah,
for spots.
the heaters.
Yes, the very.
Which
the-
actually,
those are-
I have discovered this week, doing the research for the article, am I right, is that a lot of those RS11 and RS16, I guess is the standard.
The small ones? Yep.
Yes, have LED replacements now.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I haven't tried them yet. I'm not recommending them. I just found out they exist, so I'm going to start experimenting.
Because okay, so I went through
Good.
the whole LED and fluorescent replacement
Right.
thing in the house, and that is a whole other bundle of
Yep.
mess.
Big bulbs are no problem. These little bulbs tend to be a problem. And the fact that both my daughters have these wavy halogen floods that are R16 that IKEA used to sell. And
Oh,
you
okay.
actually can no longer buy halogen bulbs from IKEA that fit those.
They look
fit
like
those
Willy
switches.
Wonka lamps, kind of, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so I have to find a different solution. Turns out you can buy them on Amazon right now, but even that's going to go away after a while. So I'm looking for LED replacement.
So the problem I've had replacing incandescents with CFLs and LEDs is that even the dimmable CFLs and LEDs don't necessarily work with all dimmers.
Right.
So like in our bathroom, we have this array of lights above the sink, above the mirror, and I replace those with dimmable LEDs.
You need to get LED capable dimmers.
Exactly, and even the best part about this is that some of the LED capable dimmers aren't compatible with all of the LEDs that are dimmable.
Right.
So those lights just are always on a little bit. It turns out.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I
Right.
think it's probably not. But yeah, we're working on a solution. But it was like $100 worth of light bulb, so I'm in. I've got 200,000 hours of light bulb to burn through
Right.
there. So anyway, what's going on with you, Lloyd? How you doing?
Just doing the startup thing, which are still in stealth mode for a little while. Although I'll show you guys some stuff later when the cameras are off.
You gotta
but,
sign some NDAs.
Way to tease. Way to tease.
And doing some gaming and some board gaming and a lot of bike riding and bought 2 new bikes.
Wow.
and
Crazy.
stuff like that. So
Okay. Should we talk about some tech news?
sure.
It's been a kind of crazy week this week. Should we start with the big thing? The one that
There's
everybody's
only
talking about?
one big thing.
The Hyperloop.
That's the only crazy thing this week.
Okay.
The Hyperloop.
I think the
Splitting hype
Hyperloop
from Hyperloop.
I think the Hyperloop, the pneumatic tube that goes from LA to San Francisco, is kind of a neat idea.
Except that it won't work.
Why won't it work?
There's a number of reasons it won't work. First of all,
This is why we have- This is why we love you, Lloyd.
Right,
Well,
right,
let's
right.
explain what the Hyperloop is
Yes,
before
right,
we explain
right,
why it won't work, and what the whole thing is.
Okay, so the Hyperloop is a pair of tubes that are in a loop on either end.
It's a concept.
It's a concept by Elon Musk.
Right.
The
Not a new concept, by the way. It's came out actually in the 40s originally.
Yep.
Well, and I mean, science fiction has been talking about evacuated tube,
Right.
high-speed transport deep underneath the earth for a long time.
Right.
But the idea is that it goes down the I-5 corridor,
Right.
basically from Hayward in the Bay Area to someplace in
Someplace
LA. I
north
can't
of LA.
remember.
No, sorry, a little north
Like
of
north
LA,
and
actually.
east, right?
Yeah. Not exactly into LA.
Kind of like past Grapevine, but before you get into
Right.
LA proper.
Right.
And the idea is that there are capsules that are about 4 feet wide and 6 feet high that ride in the tube. The tube isn't in a vacuum; it's partially evacuated. With the idea being that it's much easier.
Very low air pressure. Low
Right.
pressure.
Right. But
Yeah.
that it's much easier to make low air pressure than an actual vacuum for a lot of reasons.
And the reason you want low air pressure is for no air resistance, less air resistance.
Well, yes. So the problem is that when you're talking about the speeds that you need to make a LA to San Francisco trip happen in 30 minutes, then there's a couple of physical effects that have to do with friction of the air against the sides
Right.
of the tube that would make a 500-mile long tube impractical.
And we're talking about 700 miles per hour.
Yeah, so then the capsule, the interesting thing about the capsule is that it intakes, in theory, intakes air on the front and uses that to both equalize pressure behind, in front of, and behind
Right.
the capsule, and then also uses a kind of air bearing is what it's called, but it's basically like a air hockey table.
Sure.
To float the capsule a couple of millimeters above the surface of the tube. And the idea is that you can accelerate to 700 or 800 miles an hour very quickly. They can fire tubes every 20 or 30 seconds. And theoretically, you should be able to go from San Francisco to LA for 20 or 30 bucks.
And it's based on maglev for propulsion.
Well, it's not.
Right.
It's a linear motor basically. So instead of having a rotor, it's the same thing as same basic idea as like roller coaster accelerators at a high level, like the things that speed you off, not the ones that you ride up a hill, but the ones that accelerate you straight out of the gate.
Okay.
So yeah. So Elon Musk rolled this out on Monday
Right.
with a 50-page white paper explaining his high-level thoughts, and then was like, "Okay, do what you want."
How much is it going to cost?
A few $1 billion,
$6 billion.
6 to 10, depending on.
Right, and if you buy that estimate, I have a bridge I want to sell you.
Well, I have a bridge retrofit I want to sell you,
Yeah,
which,
right.
Yeah.
which costs more than that.
Right.
Well, so
So
the point, though, is that by sticking on the I-5 corridor and using the pylons, that theoretically he avoids a lot of the property rights issues that are plaguing the current California high-speed rail, which is projected to cost a lot more than that.
So
right?
California has long wanted a system to get from Bay Area
Right.
to Southern California, but a lot of it has been blocked by land ownership and
Right.
NIMBYism.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of bureaucracy, and no one has been able to find any type
But we
of...
voted
I
for
mean,
it.
that I-5 corridor, first of all, it's very narrow.
Yeah.
And first of all, it's not entirely owned by the government. It doesn't have right of way. I mean, there's some places where people, if you did something other than I-5, you would have to pay somebody. So, I mean, it's not quite, oh, yeah, the government will just hand their way there.
And also,
Right.
how are they getting around the grapevine?
That's another question in terms of, there's a great website that I came across that had the best criticism, much better than I could do, called Pedestrian Observations.
Okay.
And he does a lot of the physics analysis. And the quote that I love from this entire thing is that it's not a transportation system, it's a barf system. Because he did all the physics in terms of not the acceleration, deceleration, but just going, the curves you would have to do, even if you did the very gentle curves, would put it,
It's a half G horizontal load,
Yeah,
which makes you
right.
feel real bad.
That's right. That's
Fun-
right.
fun
And he did the calculations on, can you really do a car every 30 seconds? Well, everybody's carrying their backpacks, and some people want to carry bicycles, and some people
No bicycles, Lloyd. I'm sorry.
How you-
Your people are
Right.
You got to get to Hayward also?
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
no wheelchair people.
Yeah, no wheelchair people.
Right.
I mean, it just goes on. It's like, this is not gonna work.
More importantly, is there internet access in the tube?
Yeah, there's internet access in the tube.
Right.
It's all solar powered.
it's very,
too. We
very
forgot
important.
that. This is important. Solar panels across the whole top of the thing.
And the talk of building these pylons so that they cost less to build each pylon because this thing is so lightweight, right? Because the tube is going to be. But I mean, you got to worry about things like earthquakes and the earth moving under you and tree roots and everything else. And
cars crashing into the pylons.
right,
and- yeah.
right. So I mean, the costs first of all are way understated. I think way understated.
Well, the other thing I love is basically any of the emergencies listed, because at the end there's a whole what if these things go wrong. There's
Right.
10 or 12 things in there.
Right.
Only
And
12 things can go wrong
no.
that they've anticipated.
This is the high level stuff. I think the goal of a document like this, if I had to guess, is let's answer all the questions the dopes on CNN are going to ask. Right? What if there's an earthquake? What if a terrorist bombs it? What if somebody has a heart attack inside? What if you have to go to the bathroom?
Right.
And what are their proposed solutions?
Basically, the whole thing is once you get going, you're coasting the rest of the way, and you're 30 minutes from LA. So, or 30 minutes from San Francisco. So once you're in for the ride.
And then what happens when I take my baby along?
No babies.
Yeah, right. This is a rich man's toy.
You know, you could have said that about a lot of the other stuff that Musk has done.
Right.
SpaceX is a rich man's toy. And so is Tesla.
But I mean, SpaceX is
Both
delivering
successful.
actual stuff to the space station.
Right.
I'm not completely sure that Tesla is successful yet in the long run, but it has been successful in the short run. I'll grant that.
Yeah, I mean,
and the cars are great.
They're shipping products and they're good products.
Yep. They're solid. I mean,
Whether it's sustainable or not,
Yep.
we'll find out.
but I mean, it's the whole classic. The guy's rich and been successful, so of course he's going to be successful in everything he tries. And I
Well-
think that there's a certain amount of leeway that's given that I think isn't always warranted.
He doesn't understand failure.
Right.
I think, but on the other hand, being the devil's advocate, I think that you have to say, look, he's looking at the technology that they built for Tesla and for SpaceX and the rise of solar cells, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think. And, here is maybe not quite off the shelf, but almost off the shelf technology that could be assembled in a novel way that seems a little bit crazy. But I mean, if you asked 7 years ago about private space flights for the space station, we probably would have said that's a little crazy too.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not enough of an expert to say one way or the other, but I think the dude deserves the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think the real difference between this and even SpaceX to some extent is that this is an infrastructure project. And that has a whole different
Well,
impact
that's true.
than anything else he's done in the past.
Well, and as evidenced by the east span of the Bay Bridge, which is now going into its 10th year or something.
Right.
Like infrastructure projects are much harder now
Right.
than they have ever been in past history.
And this website, Production Observations, he also did an analysis of the tunneling costs because they're going to put short tunnels in certain parts
Yeah.
of the area. Tunneling costs are way underestimated just to move the Earth.
I'm sure
Well-
contractors and structural engineers are laughing as they're reading this.
Well, it's like anything else, However, the answer to that is that these tunnels are much smaller than a normal car or train tunnel would be. So,
You still have to move a lot of
Would
Earth.
you invest
Right.
in this if it was a public enterprise,
A public enterprise?
like a
No.
privately funded or publicly funded?
No.
yeah, if it's public, I wouldn't never invest in the public. No.
if it's an
even
enterprise
invest
that
in-
you could invest in
No.
to get first dibs or to get priority access, or it's because you believe in
So
it.
you think you could kickstart this?
No, if people believe in it, put their money where their mouth is and fund it.
I would put in a few $100. I wouldn't put my 401k in it. So that's the Hyperloop. The best thing I saw was the thing on either the Daily Show or Colbert last night, where they basically showed the montage of people doing the high acceleration launch rides at roller coasters
Right.
and screaming horrific obscenities the whole time. They're like, this is 30 minutes of this each way, no
Yeah,
problem.
The best thing that come out of the Hyperloop is these snarky comments.
even though I
about the
think this
Hyperloop.
is, I think this is not a feasible idea. I think that's a little bit of exaggeration.
Yeah, it's only going to be like that for the first 30 or 40 seconds.
Right. Well, that is a good point, though. 1G for, I think it's 2 minutes, actually. 1G for 2 minutes, if I recall correctly. Maybe it's 30 seconds. I don't remember.
I think it's 30 seconds,
But
but I think it's a
still-
couple of 30
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah, it's pretty substantial. And are they going to flip the seats around, going the other way? Otherwise, you're getting a negative 1G at the other end.
Well, I think the idea I saw was that when you hit the end of the tube, you get dumped in, and this is all stuff that they said I read the whole white
Right.
paper the other night. They said, we don't have station designs or have any idea how this stuff would work.
Oh, okay.
But you'll get to the end of the tunnel, and then the car will get dumped off into a loading
I'm
dock.
suddenly reminded of the Far Side cartoon where the two scientists are arguing, here's the point, here's the end, and then in the middle is a miracle occurs.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
Profit.
Exactly. But yeah, the idea is that you load the cars separately. It's not like going to Disneyland where you get onto, or Epcot Center where you get onto the giant golf ball ride and you have to get on the increasingly faster conveyor belts
Right.
until you get to the cars and just step in. 'cause
Or
you're
like a
safe
ski
speed.
lift.
Yeah, it's not
But
like
the idea is that when two major metropolitan areas they can be interconnected in a certain way, then you foster these type of like mega areas, but then you have all these areas in between that no one then lives in.
it's very Gibsonian. Yeah, all the people in Bakersfield in the Central Valley were like, "Hey, wait, where are the stops in the valley?"
Nope.
Right.
No,
No.
we don't need any of
But
those.
then the California becomes, or half of
It's-
California
it's
becomes
just-
one mega area.
It's just sort of the mega version of the white bus.
What's the white bus?
The white buses that go between San Francisco and Google and Apple and all that.
Oh, the private bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Just internet on those.
Do we know about that? We haven't talked about that on the show yet, but we should because
Yes.
it's a little crazy.
Yes, there have been some interesting articles about that recently. Mostly opinion pieces, not factual articles, but yeah.
Well, one person went and did like on the ground reporting, counting buses and
Right.
established routes. I wish I could remember what it was. I want to say it was in SFist or 7x7 or something like that. But basically, there's a whole network of private busing
Right.
that takes people who work at Google, Apple, Facebook, maybe HP, Genentech, Yahoo.
Except their buses are purple.
Keep it
Right.
real low key there, guys. Way to go. And it ferries you from the San Francisco proper down to the valley where
Right.
you work. So
And in the case of Genentech, it's actually the other direction, which I thought was in it mostly. There's
'cause
buses that
they
come
work-
they're kind of up north.
Yeah, they're in South City,
They
right?
they have buses that come from San Francisco, but there's a lot of buses. I see them on 280. Bunch of buses coming from the south going to Genentech.
you used to be able to mooch off of their Wi-Fi. So in the old
you
days,
were
they
driving
didn't encrypt their
close?
Wi-Fi. If you were like if Gina was driving and I would be in the passenger seat, I'd
It's
bust
the
out.
worst idea ever.
It's why not just stay close to the van. Don't get too far.
Tailgate a giant bus.
But there's tons of them. There are literally
Yeah.
everywhere.
and that system is partially responsible for the high rent rate and housing prices in San Francisco.
That's right. I guess we're talking about it now.
Yeah, it's a good topic.
But it is. It
It's
is.
a weird valley.
It affects the gentrification rate in San Francisco
Mm-hmm.
to a great extent.
The engineers don't want to give up anything.
Well, but the thing about it is that has arisen partly because the methods of getting from here to from San Francisco to the valley via public transport suck. And also driving
right.
sucks.
Right, and I completely agree with that. And yet, these companies' solution is to put money into their own systems rather than putting it into the public transit system.
Well, it's kind of Neil Stephenson's vision of America, right?
Well, you could argue that Google
all
with,
franchulates.
self-driving car stuff and car-to-car technology
Yes.
being developed. That is
In
helping
fact,
overall.
Yeah, my vision of what a good sort of long-term LA to San Francisco corridor are all self-driving cars powered by the strips built into the concrete rather than gasoline powered.
Slot cars.
Well, not even slot cars. Like they're like some of the bus systems in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in a slot. There's just a thing underneath the road that empowers them through induction.
Like induction?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Don't you
It's
lose a lot of
very,
energy that
very
way?
expensive. You do, but it's also very expensive to retrofit.
Right. I
pavement.
mean, it would take time, but I'm not sure it'd be any more expensive than building a Hyperloop.
Sure.
Well, and how is that something where you could do like a charging strip that's a mile long,
Right.
and then
Yeah, you could do things
run
like
on
that.
batteries for 3
It's
miles?
just like
and-
Mario Kart, where you got to look for the yellow speed up ramps, and you drive over those, and then you charge up.
No, the computer doing the driving, do all that stuff. And if you had efficient computer control of the cars, instead of going 70 miles an hour, the cars could go 100, 110.
Right. Or average 70 miles an hour,
Right.
because everybody's on the grid.
There's so many alternate solutions to point-to-point transport, public transport.
I mean, so while we're talking about crazy future stuff, do you think we're more likely to see computer required, like self-driving cars only on
No.
freeways or on inner cities first?
Freeways first, I would think.
You think so?
Freeways
It's
are easier to
easier
manage.
driving?
Easier problem to solve, yeah.
And also, but self-driving cars will, like all the car sharing services I could see in the future, all using self-driving
Yeah.
cars,
Right.
and all like city car share stuff. So you go point to point, drop off, and then the car goes to the next point, and you solve the car storage problem. the parking-
Zip car makes
all the
a lot more
parking
sense if
solution, yeah.
the cars drive and park themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Weird. It's a weird world.
I mean, I
It's an
still remember
inventory problem.
when I was a kid reading Robert Heinlein. I think it was I can't remember which book it was, but there was
is it from the Pervy Highland?
No,
or
it
the
was from the
pre-
juveniles.
Okay.
And it's like they were laughing at the idea that remember back in the early days when people actually drove their own cars. It's like
Well, it's the iRobot joke, right?
Right.
The bad Will Smith movie. He's wait, you drive your own car? Are you a maniac?
He drove a motorcycle.
Rode a motorcycle too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd miss driving that much. I'm okay with the robots driving.
I love driving.
There are times that it's fun to drive, and times that you'd rather do something else.
right.
Should we talk about have we anything else from the near future we want to talk about before we go on? Should we talk about the SpaceX stuff since that's on the list later on? The Grasshopper. Do you know about the Grasshopper?
The thing that kind of floats around and doesn't just go straight up and down.
It's like a lander.
Yeah.
Well, it goes down. That's the important. part.
Right. Yeah.
Controlled down.
Control landing. Right.
Controlled.
yeah.
Controlled. rocket-powered landing.
That was their proof of concept, right? That they could actually do it.
And I think this is the 5th or 6th one that they built.
Right, and it worked. And
Well, so they've done a bunch of test flights with it.
Mhm.
The one that they did this week was up 250 meters and then like it went up and did one of those things that the Russian rockets usually do right before they nosedive into the tundra.
Right.
And it went over a few hundred meters and then came back and landed at the center of the pad again.
Now, what is the benefit of a lander on Earth?
I don't know that I think that the amount of gravity we have, our gravity well, and the speed that you have to slow down from the XKCD What If this week illustrated this very well, is such that this is for other
things
not
like
for lander,
gravity wells,
right,
asteroids in the moon and stuff
asteroids
like
in the moon and
that,
Mars.
and also it's for the reusable stage ones.
that happened, and the other interesting bit of news that came by was somebody, I can't remember which group it was, identified a bunch of asteroids that are suitable for capture, right?
They're
Really?
within reach for existing rocket technology.
Well, I missed that
12
one.
of those.
Yeah. And so, you land on them, you mine them if they have mineable resources.
Planetary resources.
So when you say capture, you mean fly a rocket there and then mount a rocket on the surface or an ion?
I don't
No,
think
you,
they're that
you mine
specific.
it and then
Yeah.
you bring the materials back. You
Yeah.
don't bring the whole asteroid
Okay.
back.
Right.
It's not that capture.
Yeah, we're not going to stick a bunch of asteroids in the L5 point or something.
Right. We don't want to make weaponized asteroids. That would be real bad.
Right.
That's real stupid.
So yeah, the grasshopper thing. The video is on the site. You should watch it.
Yeah.
It was a cool video, and it looks like it's going to go real hinky. And then
And you need stuff like that if you ever are going to have actual lunar colonies, which I think is a viable thing.
They
someday.
shoot those things with drones.
with
video.
octocopter drones.
Right.
The other thing Norm did point out rightly is that I think that Soyuz uses a retro rocket to slow its descent right before it smashes into the ground, the capsules. And I think that this is also part of let's reuse the capsules and
all about
do a
reusability.
slow descent.
Right.
I think the reason it's 20 stories high is because they need enough fuel to get 300 meters up and then the slow landing. Should we talk about Windows 8.1? They announced a date finally,
October 17th.
October 17th.
Yep.
One day earlier in the Windows Store.
What? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It will be released one day earlier in the Windows
So
Store.
how does you go there with a thumb drive?
No, the online store.
How do you? I don't understand. I thought that was the only one that was going to be released.
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's confusing.
Right.
But it's a patch.
Oh,
if
or
you're-
maybe that's when the actual retail versions transition over.
Oh, that makes sense. So if you download a copy of Windows 8,
Right.
you
But
get
if you
8.1
just
on
do the
76.
patch, it's probably available.
Are you running 8.1, Lloyd?
No, I'm not. I'm avoiding it till I can get an RTM.
Okay.
I don't want to have to do the whole clean up my system and reinstall
I
it.
think you can just update straight over
No.
this one. No, not so much. Okay.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
It's nice. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of it is more discoverable than Windows 8 was for new users.
Yeah.
So you're saying
And-
that animation when you first install Windows or you first turn on a Windows?
No, I mean things like
PC?
the fake start menu now and stuff like that.
Well, but the problem.
the fact that search is not bifurcated anymore and stuff like that.
You mean there's not a separate desktop
Right.
and yeah.
Well, no. When you do the search, though, it's a universal search, right? Even when you're doing it in
Oh, right.
It's universal search that's nicely segmented and also presents results in
right.
nice
You get
yeah.
everything the way you used to get everything instead of these little, the first thing.
Control panel
Right.
apps.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's people should download it when it's available. It's good. Xbox. There's a bunch of Xbox One news this week because Microsoft can't. They're just. I don't know what's happening in Redmond. People are getting crazy.
Well, somebody predicted the next thing they're going to announce was the Xbox 360, which I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah. Actually, the new Xbox One is going to be a box that looks just like the original Xbox One.
Or you're going to open it up and there's a PS4 inside or something.
Poor Microsoft. Okay, so they've reduced the number of markets that the Xbox One is coming to.
Oh, I hadn't
from
heard that
21 to 13, and they're blaming it on localizing the console.
I
the
can understand that.
dashboard.
That's a difficult problem.
It is. I mean, especially with as complex as the dashboard is, and the fact that they have to provide content in all these languages going forward. I can see how that would happen.
And even though Kinect is now optional, you still have to be able to understand those languages, right?
Yes.
So
Well, I don't know if Kinect. I wonder about that. I wonder if Kinect works in all of the languages.
that's a good question.
But I mean, if you think
Should.
about it, it's like German, French, Spanish,
Right.
and then there's other languages.
Right.
Kinect isn't required, as you said. They've
You
pulled
doesn't-
that.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be connected.
Doesn't have to be plugged in.
Right. It still comes
Bullshit.
in the box.
Guess what, guys? Right after they sell the initial launch ones that have the Kinect bundled in, there's going to be a $100 cheaper version that doesn't
Bullshit.
have a Kinect.
Bullshit.
You don't think so?
don't think-
No, I think that will be the case, but I think backing off on the Kinect
after the
I,
pre-orders.
I
is
do.
stupid.
I think.
No, from a game development standpoint.
Yeah, several. Yes, there's several reasons I think it's kind of demonstrates what's not going right with Redmond right now. First of all, I mean, Kinect does make a big statement about what Microsoft sees as the future, right?
Yeah.
And so as soon as you start pulling back from it, you say, well, we don't believe in the future we talked about. And
You mean the digital-only future
That's
with
right,
a
right.
locker
Well,
and the ability to share
just the
games?
user
and-
interface piece.
Okay,
Just the interface.
okay.
So, and now if it's not going to be required to even be plugged in, then game developers, right? Game developers, I don't really have to support it, right?
Or more importantly, there's no reason for me to support it because no
Right.
one's going to have it plugged in.
Right, because people aren't going to want to have it plugged in.
Because people are going to be
I think
afraid of this NSA stuff
Right.
and Big
So I
Brother
think-
stuff.
yeah.
The lack
But
of resolve is troubling.
Did you hear the other news about Microsoft this morning? They hired a guy from Valve.
Yes, they hired the guy who's responsible for Steam.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very interesting move, actually.
Maybe I wonder. I question the ability for someone at a mid to high level at Microsoft to get anything done.
There have been
Well,
many
that's a big-
cases
that's a
of
big reorg.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there have been many cases of Microsoft making excellent hires and then they just vanish into the ether.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I mean, there's a couple that are kind of up in the air right now.
Right.
People
Did
have
you
been
see
really good in
that
the
post
past.
about what defines googliness?
no.
It was someone who worked at Google for 5 years and wrote this blog post who got linked around and laughed at by a lot of people. The traits that define googliness, and then the Apple analysts retorted with the traits that define appliness and the difference.
Was this the whole back and forth about why I use a Android phone now?
Oh, we
instead
should
of
talk
iPhone?
about that. I'll put
that's
that
a
on the
different
list
thing.
here in a
Okay.
little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a similar kind of conversation, though.
No, it was more of a company culture thing. The googliness thing, well, always strive to do the right thing, as opposed to for appliness, always strive to do the best thing. And
So is this like the org
Be
chart
friendly-
thing that went around a few weeks ago?
not an org chart. Not an org.
You saw the org chart
Yes,
where
yes.
Microsoft had the individual circles where the guns are pointing at all the other individual circles.
Right.
Yeah. What defines Microsoft? Yes.
They kind
Tribal.
of
That org chart does define Microsoft's tribalism, which is what I guess Ballmer's trying
Watch
to cure.
your back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Microsoft tries a lot of stuff, and they iterate. Traditionally, they've iterated really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the first version of a new product may not be awesome,
Right.
but if they get to a third, it'll probably be pretty good.
Yeah, see, that's the thing about it, though. In the past, well, there's two. I have two sort of divergent train of thoughts. In the past, that worked really well because nobody else. They were the big.
There was
guy
no
on the block.
competition.
There was no real competition.
Yeah.
And so if you had a 2-year iteration cycle, okay, we knew that was going to happen. Okay, it's kind of crappy now. We knew Microsoft was coming out. We're okay with that. Now, what's happening is that Google is iterating in real time, right? Chrome gets a new version every 2 or 3 months, and so not always a better version, but whatever.
At least it's new.
They're iterating it, and so Microsoft is not in that. I need to turn my products over every 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months.
Well, and the other thing is those updates have become, because they're so frequent, they've become much less visible. So the benefit, in the old days, Microsoft could come out and say, hey, we have a new version of Windows. This one supports AGP, and it's going to support DVD-ROM natively,
Right.
and it's going to support 2 other things.
Everybody goes, ooh, ah.
And I'm like, thank God, we
Yeah.
don't have to install those shitty third-party drivers
Right.
anymore. Now Google is just rolling all those minor things into every third update of
Right.
their software,
Right.
and when Apple rolls an OS 10 update that has a list of 300 new features on the OS 10 page, and Microsoft comes out and shows a brand new UI that people don't really like very much, it's not real good for them. It doesn't
Right.
go well.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, last of the Xbox stuff. The Xbox One gamepad is going to have a PC-compatible attachment sometime in 2014, which is nice because that gamepad feels really good. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about rumble triggers as a theoretical thing, but I mean, I only have like 15 360 controllers around the house, so why not?
As a mostly non-gamepad user, I find it more interesting academically than viscerally.
I use it I'd be much more interested in Kinect on the PC, honestly.
Mhm.
Like the ability, because I know they've said they're doing dev kits, but they're
Right.
limited, and you have to like apply to get access to them and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Some of the
I'm not
demos they've
interested in
done.
Kinect on PC.
What's that?
I'm interested in what people are allowing people to develop Kinect.
that's why I'm interested
But
in people using Kinect for robotics and stuff
But
like
using
that.
Kinect on the PC is
I-
not interesting.
Right. I don't want to play games. I want people to build
Vertical
cool robots.
applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then the last thing is Xbox Home Gold, which, so basically the thing right now is if you have, this is a perfect example. My wife and I have 2 Xbox Live, each have an Xbox Live account. I have a gold account. She has a silver account.
Right.
if she wants to watch Netflix or any of the video
She has to
apps or
log in as
HBO
you,
Go, she has
right.
to log in as me. With the one, if one person on that console has a gold account, whose profile is saved on the console has a gold account, everyone who's on that account or who uses that machine, all the accounts that use that machine will get gold level access to things like apps and multiplayer and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which also has the added benefit of if you come over to my house and we want to play games, then and you don't have gold, then we can play a multiplayer
So
game
the fact
on
that there's
internet.
no family membership anymore is now kind of irrelevant.
This
Yeah.
solves the family
Right,
membership
right.
problem without having to pay extra money, which I
Right,
like.
which is good.
So yeah, it's not all bad news, I guess.
The other thing they did, I don't know if you guys talked about this earlier. This is a few weeks ago now, but they boosted the clock rate on the GPU.
We didn't touch on it, but we should talk about it because is this a response to the GDDR5 memory, the higher bandwidth memory in the
Well,
PS4 thing?
and the fact that the PS4 has more
Shaders.
shader units.
Yeah.
So they had to do something.
Is that the kind of thing that Microsoft has kind of a bad reputation for early hardware reliability?
Given the kind of semi off the shelf nature of this hardware, I don't think it's going to be as big a problem as it was with the Xbox 360.
Okay.
Plus, it's much bigger than the PS4 physically.
The die.
No, the
the box. Okay.
So you have some room to play around with fan speeds and that kind of stuff.
Are they integrating the power supply? It's an external power brick again,
I
isn't
don't
it?
recall.
I can't
That I don't
remember. I
remember.
feel like I saw that someplace and I've forgotten.
It is.
It is. So
that the power supply heats in separate, not inside the unit.
yeah, that's interesting that they have a bigger box and
If my PC experience is worth anything, my recollection for the graphics cards from the same company, not talking about between competitors right now, where you had fewer units that ran at a higher clock rate, which is what AMD did a lot. And I think NVIDIA did to some extent.
well,
too.
they did in their integrated stuff
Right.
especially.
It
right?
never quite made up for the fact that you had a more expensive graphics card, but it helped.
It closed the gap between the $150 and the $200 card, right?
Right.
It's interesting. I'm, part of me thinks that graphics on consoles really don't like the capabilities on the consoles only matter for the first party games because assuming they both get relatively equal market share,
Right.
the third party developers are just going to write to the least common denominator, barring some horrible mess up like the Unreal Engine on PS3.
Right, and to give the game developers credit, they've gotten much better at making the PC versions work and look better.
Yeah.
They're no longer sort of like.
Well, they're still leading PC, it seems like,
Right.
in a lot of cases.
Right.
And I mean, if they're leading, I don't see that changing going into this next generation, which is new.
Right.
And I think thanks Steam, we have Steam to thank for that. Well, we're talking about PC gaming. Do you want to talk about the Humble Origin bundle?
I bought that.
I expected there to be a controversy about this, and there kind of hasn't.
There
been.
is controversy.
There's
Why?
a little bit of a controversy.
What's the controversy?
The controversy of there's no Steam code.
There's
Steam codes for the games that are on
Well,
Steam.
on Steam.
Yeah, right.
So
and
Mirror's Edge. Should we tell what the games are first?
yes.
It's Dead Space 3, Mirror's Edge, Crysis 2, Burnout, and then you get Burnout Paradise, sorry, the whole thing, Medal of Honor, and then you get Battlefield 3 and Sims 3 if you pay more than the minimum, which was like $5 last time I looked.
Yeah. I paid $10.
Um,
I'm cheap. I'm sorry.
you know what? On the indie games,
Yeah.
I pay big.
Right. Yes.
On the EA game, 10 cents over the minimum. I think I had all of these games except for Sims 3, which I kind of don't. I'm not that excited about.
I had one or two, but I actually didn't have any of the
It's a good bundle.
Dead Space games or anything.
Yeah, the Dead Space one is great. It's a real deliberate pace. Burnout Paradise is. I don't know how the PC version of that is, but the Xbox version was amazing.
Okay.
It's a good list of games. Okay, so
And
the
Battlefield
controversy-
3 also
is
if
great.
you
Right.
Yeah.
Origin something didn't work. Like
You mean like you couldn't get Origin
you
keys?
couldn't get like Origin logins didn't work.
Oh well, that's not a surprise. I mean, they will work after a while once they kind of
Yeah.
the left hand talks to the right hand and all that stuff.
It's EA, man. What do you expect?
I'm just totally jaded about this stuff. Something for day one launch, servers don't work. I'll just come back tomorrow. It's like
Do you pre-order stuff?
depends on how much I want.
Like it depends on what the deal is, right?
Right. And how much I like the game.
I think
And track
game
record, I
concept.
guess.
Right.
Yeah.
a lot of people now waiting for these games to come out. Like I saw Saints Row 4 is coming out very soon. on
Next
PC,
Tuesday.
And people were just like, oh, you know what?
Which one?
Saints Row 4.
Oh, okay. Right.
And people are like, oh, I'll just wait till it goes on sale on Steam. $3. I'll buy it for $5.
Well, that'll be $5. Will be a long time.
But probably, yes, yeah.
Well, not if no one buys it initially.
No. What'll happen is it's $59 now. and nobody buys it, it'll be $39 in
A month.
6 weeks,
Yeah.
and people say, "Oh well, okay, I'll do that." Instead
So
of waiting for the $5 thing.
So like I wanted to play Remember Me, which I haven't actually played yet, but and I got on the Steam sale for $25, $26, and it was maybe a month and a half old at that point, maybe
Right.
2 months at the
Right.
outside. So yeah, I mean, if you don't mind waiting, you get the deal.
The idea that you should only pay full price if you want it like when it comes out, I think is bad.
Well, my policy on buying stuff on day one was usually around multiplayer stuff, and since I don't really play much multiplayer stuff anymore, it's not that much of an issue. But like if you're playing a game that is primarily multiplayer, like a Call of Duty game, or even like that Payday game that came out
Right.
this week, like you if you're going to play that, you have to play it when your friends or when the community is playing, because once the multiplayer community goes away,
Right.
there's no game.
Call of Duty Ghost will have women in multiplayer now.
Like you can play as a woman.
Right.
Yeah, I
What
do not care so little about Call of Duty Ghosts.
All I know is
no,
that
no.
that
And their
dog is
giant-
doomed.
No,
giant event.
I just kind of wonder what, I think I want to turn my headset off because of
Play as a
Anyway,
woman and turn your head.
yes.
Well, turning your headset off when you play Call of Duty is always a good idea. Like if
Right.
you're playing Call of Duty, get 4 friends, hop on Skype, mute game voice,
Right.
and just go do your thing.
Right. I agree. And what's interesting? It's the style of game, I think, has an impact on that. Like, I played a ton of multiplayer Mass Effect 3, with the headset on and everything. I never had, very rarely did I have, like, really assholes in the game.
Yeah, we played that on the Xbox even,
Yeah.
and it was people were decent human beings.
Right. I think maybe part of it may have been the co-op nature of the game, but I think it's also the way the kind of person that played that game universe, in a sense.
Sci-fi universes versus war.
Yeah, and the sort of the even though it's sort of the more positive aspect, sort of tone of the game in general.
One of the things I found is that also if you get into an older game that has maintained a community, whether it's TF2 or Left 4 Dead. Like I hopped in Left 4 Dead a few weeks ago and just went into a random game and had a really nice time with 4 complete strangers or 3 complete strangers, and everybody was playing, and I hadn't played a couple of the maps, and they weren't dicks about me not knowing where to go, and they were like, no, you need to come over here, blah, 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 and it was good. Like even though in the place where somebody would have had a meltdown when somebody whiffed at the final
Right.
last stand,
Right.
it all ended up okay. Everything was good. I was really pleasant. It like gave me hope for the future. So,
That's real sad.
well,
I would look for hope for the future in other places.
but
In your child's eyes,
there's definitely hope for the future in the child's eyes. But
not Left 4 Dead.
if you but just like at this
I know
point,
what you're saying, Will. I understand.
yeah, my expectation for human interaction in
Is so
anonymous
low.
online video games is so low.
That is sad. That's what is sad.
that somebody not killing me over and over and over again is like, oh,
Right.
it's gonna be okay.
Right.
Should we talk about the weird Sony lens thing? I saw this blog
Oh,
post.
the thing, the camera in a
Camera
lens that you
lens.
stick on your phone.
It's yes.
Not officially announced yet.
Yeah, it's a rumor, but
likely, but there are photos of it and specs.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner.
It's so stupid.
You think it's super?
So
Word
stupid.
picture. So it's basically a point and shoot
hold on.
lens.
It's an attachment that looks like a big lens.
Right, I've seen it. Yeah.
And for people who might not
Okay.
have seen it, and it looks like there's like a hook on it on the top
Right,
of it. So there's
right.
no body. It's as if you
Right.
bought like a separate lens for a pocket camera,
Right.
and the hook mounts onto in the photos a Sony Xperia phone,
Right.
which also hasn't been announced yet. But what the leaks say is that this isn't plugged into any USB port or anything. It's just like a magnetic attachment to fix it to clamp it to your camera body. So there's no direct physical connection
Right.
between this unit, this lens camera, and your phone. It's all through NFC or Wi-Fi. But what it does is then it lets you use your phone as the controller on the viewfinder
Right.
for this lens body.
so does it have to be attached? Wouldn't it be much better if you just had the camera over here?
If it's
and
NFC, then
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the final implementation is going to be, right?
okay.
I think your idea is great. If you could have it like be a periscope,
Yeah.
that would be
I
awesome.
mean, that's amazing.
And then you could be sitting down there looking at your phone here while you're doing this.
Right,
That'd
you
be
put it
great.
on a little like put it on an RC car and drive the RC car around the corner and take your picture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's magic.
I think it's so stupid. I think the price is going to be really high because they're
It's-
talking about it being the same lens, the Zeiss lens, and the sensor as the RX 100 Mark II.
Okay.
And
That's
that's
a-
a $700
yeah.
camera. Then I can't see this going for under $400.
Well, but I mean, if you're like to me, that's much more compelling than the RX 100 Mark II.
No, absolutely not.
Because it's one less. I'm already carrying the phone. It's a much smaller thing to carry around with me everywhere.
So you're going to take out two things. It's not a much.
Well,
smaller
no, realistically, I'm not ever going to use a Sony
Yeah.
phone. But I mean, if I was
thing.
in
No,
theory,
let's say it worked with the iPhone.
Yeah,
then you're going
okay.
to have two things in your pockets. You're going to have a phone and also a bulky lens, which
I'll
is not
tuck
small.
that thing in my bag.
They want to have a camera.
Well, I have the camera in there too, probably.
Yeah,
Let's-
or
yeah.
why not just get a Nokia 1020 or whatever the
Well,
number is.
because Windows Phone, Lloyd. Really?
If you're talking about having a better, if the point of having using your camera, your smartphone as your camera, is that it's going to always be with you, this isn't always going to be with you because this is bulky and big and cumbersome to take that out, pair the devices, and then launch an app, not swiping in from your lock screen, launch an app, and then set it up, and then you're also charging two devices at once.
Well-
Convenience out the window.
Right. Well,
If-
I think it's an interesting experiment. I do think it's interesting.
I think it's going to fail.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a device that's a dedicated camera, then buy a dedicated camera because then you're not also putting your phone at risk if you're going somewhere like the top of a mountain or you're going on some adventure and you need to take good photos.
Is this your point and shoot snobbery coming out, Norm?
No, I think this product makes no sense.
Okay.
Okay, you can buy it, absolutely.
I am not in the market for a Sony phone / camera hybrid. But yeah.
I'm trying to figure out which kind of pocket camera I want to get. I haven't decided if I want to get like.
RX 102?
Well, no. I'm not sure if I want to get a point and shoot or something with a interchangeable lens.
I don't.
Like a
I
small
think that.
mirrorless?
I think for you, because you already have your D800 or 600,
Yep.
and I think a point and shoot makes more sense. Because if you're talking about swappable lenses, you lose all that the compactness.
Not necessarily. I
You
mean,
can put a small
you can
pancake.
yeah, right. Put a small pancake lens.
It's
for-
still technically bigger and more expensive overall as a package.
It's a jacket pocket versus a pants pocket, is my experience.
I don't know. What's the price? What's the current price on the Canon one?
The EOS M was discounted. I think it's
$339.
Yeah, it's. Wow. That's because no one.
With a
that's because
lens.
it had bad. The reviews are bad because autofocus is real bad on that one. It's also pretty big.
It is pretty big.
It is big. Let's see. There's an Apple event, almost certainly on September 10th.
Right.
Wall
Have
Street
they
Journal.
sent out invites yet, or is
No,
it
Wall
this
Street
is just
Journal
based on
insider sources.
Oh.
Say September 10th, which is very likely, given that they need an iPhone. It's also about when they had their event last year.
And so this will be iOS 7, iPhone 5S, new iPads, presumably,
Possibly a cheap iPhone.
And iPhone
and maybe a
5C,
a plastic back budget iPhone.
which makes so much sense.
Bigger screen, you think?
No. Oh, I mean bigger than on iPhone?
Yeah.
Still 5-inch. I think it'll be 5-inch 960s.
Okay.
You think they'll stick with the same body and just
Same
update the
body.
guts?
Update the guts. I think they'll have a 5S. The 5 will be discounted $99 on contract.
What's
and,
the Siri-like feature that makes you want the 5S if you have a 5?
First, faster processor, longer battery life, and a better camera. The better camera probably will shoot at 120 FPS,
Video. 720p?
720p.
It's very specific, Norm.
These are guesses into the future.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk about Retina iPad minis as well. We haven't talked about the rumors on that as well. But
I don't think those rumors don't feel as solid.
Well, are you talking about the rumors that it won't happen, or the rumors?
the rumors that
that it
there
will.
is a new iPad, a thinner iPad design,
Right.
and a Retina
I think we'll
iPad
see a
mini.
thinner full iPad design, the 10-inch size one, and then we'll see a Retina iPad Mini absolutely this year. The question is whether they're going to bulk up the size for that.
Right. And the craziest rumor I've heard is the 13-inch.
13-inch iPad?
Yeah.
Like an iPad Pro?
No way.
Yeah.
No
I
way.
said crazy rumor. I did
Yeah,
say crazy.
I believe that it's crazy.
I can't imagine, like, just using 10-inch 16:9 tablets, I can't imagine using a 13-inch. Because it'd be about the same size.
You're talking about the same
but
aspect
thicker.
ratio.
Yeah.
Right.
Also,
No, that's what I'm saying. If it was the 4:3 aspect ratio, it would be the height of a 10-inch
Right.
tablet, but the width of like a
Right.
10-inch tablet and a half. It would be
Right.
enormous.
Yeah. It'd be like carrying on a small iMac in your hand. basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, or that's why would you do that? There was a blog post that made the rounds at length from I guess he's a user interface guy at Twitter. Is that who he is?
I don't know who he is.
Basically, it was like, this is why I switched to Android. Android is better.
Yes, I followed that whole thing, and then the other guy responded.
Marco Arment.
Right.
Well, because Mark Arment always responds. He's the Derek Smart of the iOS universe.
Oh, is that right?
Do people like Mark Arment less now that he's kind of absolved himself of all the things that people loved him for?
You mean Tumblr and Instapaper and
the magazine?
The magazine, and I Like, I didn't really ever feel an attachment to Marco Arment.
No, I thought it was wonderful.
I thought he was interesting, but it's like it's not somebody who like if I saw Marco Arment at a convention or something, I would never walk up and introduce myself.
I would absolutely do that.
Okay.
I would want to have long conversations with him. He's great on podcasts.
Well, this is awkward then.
Well, no, there's one fewer beer to buy.
What do you think about the blog post, the Android blog post, as the newly converted Norm?
I thought he hit on all the right points. That was
Specifics?
he said the things that he said Android does really well. Notifications. It's the exact reason that I can't go back to iOS. Is because notification bar sucks on iOS, and I mean, in working that in concert with the widgets.
With the lock screen widgets specifically?
No.
The home screen widgets. Okay.
I'm sort of a heretic here.
Are you an iPhone guy still?
Yes, but my take on this whole thing is you should use the tools which work well for you.
That's kind of how I've always felt.
Well, how do you know it works well for you if you don't use?
Because it works well. I have tried them.
Okay. Lloyd's been on both sides.
Yeah.
And having been on both sides, I think the notification bar is far superior on Android than it is. And iOS 7, when they've changed the command center from the bottom, great. That's gonna be really useful. But it doesn't look like they've made enough changes to notification.
So the new notifications on iOS 7, there's 3 panes basically. There's like it's their version of the Google Now view, but it's not as good, at least in the current betas. It may be that's still being fleshed out because it's sometimes suspiciously empty. Then there's an all notifications and missed notifications. I'm not exactly sure what the difference between those two tabs are after using it for 2 months. It seems like if the phone is on when you get the notification, it says, oh, okay, this should go in all.
Right.
If it can tell that it's in your pocket or on the table and not being picked up or moved or something, it goes in missed. The missed is pretty useful. The all is the normal mess that notifications are, and frankly, they need a way to mass turn off notifications on applications. That's the large issue.
I will say that iOS, what does do better in terms of notifications is configuring your notifications in the settings menu. Because if you go in settings, you can the notifications is one separate menu, and then you can do all your checkboxes in there. In Android, there is no central place to do that. You have to go within each app. And configure notifications.
That always frustrated me. I wondered if they had changed that yet. In iOS, it's still too much of a pain because to turn off notifications, you still have to go into each thing, select, turn off the 3 different things that it can do.
I like that granular control. I would want that granular control on Android.
It would be nice to have both. The ability to say, okay, there are 20 apps with notifications here, and I don't need these to notify me ever.
Right.
And then also have the ability to do granular and the stuff that you want. Call of Duty Ghosts is going to have as is their tradition now, a ridiculous expensive special edition. And let's see, I think previous ones included night vision goggles that were really just
Is this
an
$1
infrared.
million thing?
No,
No,
that's
that's
Saints
something
Row.
else. Oh,
That's
okay,
Saints
right.
Row. Let's see. Previously, they had night vision goggles that were an infrared flashlight with like a cheap CCD camera or a CMOS camera.
Right.
They had a RC car / bomb thing. What were some of the others, Norm? Do you remember?
Does this one come with a dog?
If only.
The helmet.
Yeah, one of them had.
Wait, no,
that was just Jeff got that because he went to
Jeff,
the junket.
Yeah.
This one has an action cam.
Oh, a Parrot
Okay.
AR drone was one of them.
No, it was a knockoff of the Parrot AR drone.
I'm pretty sure it was a Parrot drone.
No way they gave a $300 toy. The MO on this is that they put about a $20 toy, the kind of thing that you don't look at the mall when you're walking the
Right.
guys flying the helicopters around because it looks too junky, and they put that in here and then add another $100 to the price.
Right.
Don't buy the special editions to get the action cam. If you want the action cam, just go buy a GoPro.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see, the Sphero. You remember the Sphero?
That's the little ball you control with your phone.
It's a hamster ball robot.
Yeah. Right.
Norm's already bored. They announced the 2.0 model, which goes 7 feet per second, double the speed of the original, and it corners a lot more aggressively. They tweaked the way the algorithm inside the
I
robot
maybe with
handles
Norm
the
on this.
steering and stuff like that.
How much does it cost?
Same price, $130. There's a boatload of apps for it. They brought me one, and I took it home and
Does it do
noodle
anything
around with
except
it.
roll around?
It's just good for tormenting the dog.
Okay.
They also have a silicone, like a condom for it. It has little nubbly things on the outside, so you can take it off-roading and in the sand in places that it previously couldn't go.
Oh boy.
It's waterproof, theoretically, except for when I sent it into the pool, it died. So maybe it's not as waterproof as they initially thought. They sent me a new one, so I can test out its waterproof nature with a confirmed one. It's much neater at double the speed of the old one, because the old one was kind of slow and deliberate.
Well, I guess the reason I'm so cynical about this is that I had RC versions of this back, when my daughters were like
Of
4.
a ball?
Yes.
Oh, I never saw one of those.
Yes. With the standard two-stick arcade
Yeah.
controller.
Is there a camera inside this one?
No, there's
No camera.
Oh, okay.
There's a clear model that you can get at Apple stores. It's partially clear, so you can see the robot inside, which is I thought pretty cool. They're doing a lot of educational stuff because you can do like programmatic control of the robot with BASIC and some macro languages and stuff
I want to
that.
see somebody come up with a Robo Rally style game with these things, right?
That's what I want.
With like 4, so you have 4 of these things on the floor, and yeah.
If you have 4 of them, you can do that.
It would just cost you $500 something.
It would cost you $620. Yes, $520. I think it's a neat toy. I agree. It's $130 is too expensive for it. But when you look at like what is actually happening inside the box, it's pretty neat. Like there's apps where you can draw a line on the tablet and it'll follow the line and all that kind of stuff. I want swarm behavior in the Spheros.
Is that in the Sphero?
Not in this one.
Well, then
Yeah,
let's wait till
I'm just saying
they do interesting things.
I want swarm behavior so that
before we get
you
excited
can
about
throw the balls out, and it does the thing from I don't remember what movie it was where he threw the. It seems like it's a Mission Impossible movie or something like that. He throws the balls out, and they all roll in the specific places, and you have the low steady cam shot of the balls rolling.
It might have been Transformers.
Was it Transformers? I don't think so. Anyway, Time Warner still not running CBS. We're 3 weeks into. If you are a Time Warner cable subscriber, you want to watch Big Brother this summer, you'd better have an antenna or an Apple TV,
Or pirate it.
Or just do the smart thing and don't watch Big
How
Brother.
much is CBS losing per day on this?
I have no idea.
It's like $400,000.
That's it?
Yeah,
That doesn't seem like very much
maybe it's a little more.
for CBS.
The dangerous part is CBS may figure out they actually don't need Time Warner, and that would be.
I think it's the other way.
Well,
The dangerous thing for Time Warner is that people are like, wait, why am I paying for CBS?
Right.
I don't like these shows. Well, there's people like that Big Bang Theory.
People do like that Big Bang Theory, but I'm not going to get into that here with you.
Netflix will take it over.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think CBS is going to let go of Big Bang Theory, probably. I think that makes them a lot of money. Plants vs. Zombies 2 is out today.
This is beta tested in Australia,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Same thing.
No,
Not the same thing.
it's not the same thing.
No, you better
Not
not say
the
that
same
to New
thing.
Zealand.
They got really mad. They got
Better
really
watch
mad
out.
when we said that last
Not
time.
the same thing.
Definitely not the same thing.
All
New
those-
Zealand gets the beta test first.
Yeah. So the early controversy about this is that it's free on iOS at least.
Oh, is it free to play?
It's everything from PopCap going forward is going to be microtransaction based.
Oh God.
But it's not it's not Candy Crush levels of
It is so.
obscene pay to play.
Well, hold
Oh.
on.
No, Candy Crush is evil because it changes its behavior the first transaction you make.
Really?
Yes, that's what somebody sort of deconstructed how it works. As soon you play as soon as you pay money, the levels automatically get harder.
Never played Candy Crush.
Oh, that's horrible.
I don't know.
Candy Crush is just Bejeweled, right? With some other stuff.
Yeah.
I've never played it.
Right?
Okay,
I
so
don't want to go there.
So let me explain. I played the first world, so it's 3 worlds. You travel back in time.
You're talking about
Plants vs. Zombies. You don't have to spend money, from what I've seen so far, to progress through the game and unlock most of the plants that you're familiar with from Plants vs. Zombies 1. However, the game constantly does a really hard sell on you. For example, when you complete a level, it will say, hey, we're going to give you 30% off if you want to unlock the pepper that makes the line of fire down the columns, down the rows. Or if you want, we're doing a deal on coins after this round only, it's 30% off.
Is it as hard to sell as that character in Animal Crossing?
Oh, it's much less hard than the bunny, and it's not an Animal Crossing. It's the bunny. It's the Nintendo bunny for the
Whatever that one was.
for the. It's the Nintendo bunny 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 Street Pass games.
Street Pass.
I'm not even going to get into that. It's a nightmare. It is much more frequent than the Street Pass bunny, and you actually have to seek out the Street Pass bunny. Once you engaged him, then he became very aggressive. But this is through playing the game, they don't make it clear that you don't necessarily have to pay to progress. You'll reach a roadblock, and it will say you can pay $1.99 to just go past this, but you could go back and play some levels again and get more stars or whatever and progress on. It's unclear to me. I think that there's probably a half dozen or so plants that are just completely unattainable unless you pay, which seems super skeezy to me. It doesn't seem like it's pay to win, although there are power-ups. So in the original Plants vs. Zombies, you collected coins, money, as part of playing. You could earn more money in mini games and stuff like that. In this game, you still have the coins. You also have stars and keys. Keys unlock progress. Stars unlock new worlds. And the coins you can use for, it seems like just in-game power-ups, like pinching to kill zombies and lightning bolts and stuff like that.
You've lost me already because Plants vs. Zombies originally was such a simple,
that's the problem.
and elegant game.
Yeah, it's not like there's and they're surfacing a lot of the more complex mini games early on as part of the, like, to collect 15 stars to unlock the next world. You now have to play some challenges that are really specific, like don't let zombies past this rank. Don't use
if
any
I want
of
to
your
do that kind of stuff,
lawnmowers.
I'll go back and play Neverwinter or something like that.
It's not anywhere near as complex as Neverwinter, but it is a.
But you know what I'm saying, right? It's
yeah. And they're emphasizing Crazy Dave, which I thought was my least favorite part of Plants vs. Zombies, where my favorite part of Plants vs. Zombies was killing zombies with plants.
And the cool different zombies they'd come up with.
I love that crazy guy.
He's good in small doses, but you see him before and after every mission. And if you restart a mission, you see him every time. It's great. But it is free. And it is not as you don't have to pay to play.
Give it to your kids. Don't give them the credit card or the password.
Don't give games to your kids.
Don't give games to your kids.
Don't give games to your kids.
No. That's beautiful. I mean, I used to sit when we would drive from one place to the other. We didn't have a DVD in the
Why
back
else
of
are
the
you
car.
gonna drink?
We gave them Game Boys.
Really?
Yes, in the back of the car.
Did you give them the connection cable so they could play against each other?
I don't think we ever got that far.
Okay.
They didn't care
Game
about
Boys.
that.
Game
What
Boys in the
kind
back
of-
of the car. was
Remember,
great.
this is back in the day, right? So.
Well, right.
But now I would probably. Sorry. What would you ask?
No. I just said when I was a kid, we didn't have Game Boys.
Right.
So we just had to sit and look outside the window of the car, or maybe read a book.
Right. And,
It's horrible.
And you never threw up in the car?
No,
one
I don't
of the
throw
things
up
that
in the
happen,
car.
this isn't true with every kid because I talked to other parents but it's like one of my daughters, for example, had a penchant for throwing up in the car.
That's-
and it was just, but you give her a Game Boy and she never threw up.
Like until she was
That's great.
20.
The problem was
Well,
that
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
the problem with the Game Boy in the car, and I had the Game Boy in the back of the car, but we shared between two brothers, so it taught me the importance of sharing. Was also the battery would not last the length of the car ride.
So would you share until the battery was about to die and then hand it off?
No. It was a lot of times.
Okay.
No. We had these things called inverters.
They were really expensive when I was a kid, inverters. So one of the things that they tell you now is that the kid, you're supposed to, and I say the kid because,
Well, what age are we talking about, too?
well, she's 6 months old.
Well, of course you would.
Yes, you're
There's
not
no
gonna give your
screens.
game to 6 months. Well, you know what? You could teach kids touchscreens early on. They love touchscreens.
Oh, well, actually, there are some people talking about things like mobiles, in the
That are just-
playpen with a screen.
that's
It's like
monstrous.
No, I agree.
Monstrous.
No way.
She is at 7 months old. She is super aware, not just of the fact that the screens are fascinating and that she loves them, but when the iPad is sitting with the cover closed on it on the bed, she will do every army crawl over there to get near it because she likes it so much. And she has had, occasionally, if things are really dire, I fire up the Magic Piano and just let her bang away on that because she really likes that.
But she's doing
there you
something.
go.
She is doing something. There's interaction. She's making noise, and she gets
so
cause
it's
and
like a toy
effect.
at that point, not like right?
Stimulus response.
They tell you no screens until they're 2. That's the guy. That's the pediatric
2 years
association
old?
guidelines.
You
Is
monster?
is it an eye focus thing? Is that why?
I think it has to do with eye development or cognitive
Now that
development
I
or something
can
like
kind
that.
of understand that.
Oh my
I don't think
goodness.
cognitive because
No,
at some
no
point-
VR goggles
Right.
until you're 4. That
Six.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
6.
No, but the
3D
Magic
stuff.
Piano thing is just a toy. It's just having
Yeah.
like a little toy piano. But I can understand the whole eye development thing. That makes sense to me.
Well, so we do some books. Like we have a couple of kids' books that when we're traveling and stuff, we keep on the iPad just because it's a lot easier than carrying books for bedtime and stuff like that. and she's super into. But we don't do any of the ones that like read to them and stuff like
Right.
that.
I also wonder
that's
if things like
cheating.
the Retina display have a different effect on.
I think it's bright. A lot of it's brightness.
It's transmissive versus reflective is
Okay.
is part of the issue.
So
too, I think.
Kindles, so e-ink screens, not.
She doesn't. So I can tell you from personal experience,
Babies have no interest in
she is not
Kindles.
interested at all in the Kindle. She likes moving stuff with colors that light comes out of.
Yeah.
So we need
We can test this. We should do a video. We'll just put the baby down.
Don't do that with your baby.
Gina,
No, the whole Game Boy thing I was talking about. The youngest one was 4 when we started that, so it wasn't like we started.
I think
with
that's.
2.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable age to start with Game Boys and stuff.
Right.
Just,
But
be careful, or else they become too entitled.
Of course, my younger daughter was playing Diablo 2 multiplayer by the time she was 7. So what does that say?
That game was rated M.
It was pretty gruesome. I was 23 by the time I was able to play that. But that was just,
Well, at one point I got
Timing.
really worried 'cause she would really get into it, right? And she would. I said, I'm really getting worried about it. And she looked at me and says, Dad, it's just a game. So I knew I was safe.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. A couple other quick things. There was an LG event. This isn't funny, but it kind of is. There was an
this is the balloon thing?
There was an LG event where they released in
Yeah,
Korea.
the balloon thing. Yeah, this is great. Go ahead.
They had balloons that inside were vouchers for free cell phones, and people showed up with weapons and rocks and stones and knives. And were like, the idea was that I think they were going to release the balloons, and then the balloons would fall down over Korea, and people would get phones
How
from
many
their
balloons?
backyard.
100.
200, yeah.
No,
That's not a
yeah,
lot of
There were a
balloons.
bunch of
There are-
empties.
There were 100 balloons that actually had the vouchers in them.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
But then there were a bunch of empties, is
Right.
my
Well,
understanding.
I'm glad that they didn't actually put like phones in balloons.
Well, that's a dumb idea. That obviously, but people brought like airsoft guns and were shooting the balloons down, and 7 people
rocks
had to
and
be
slingshots and
hospitalized.
everything else. Yes,
my God.
it's like nobody could have predicted, right?
Who would have thought?
And people were injured.
Yeah, what do we know? I never would have thought that would happen.
Have you seen the new HTC ad?
No.
They paid Robert Downey Jr. a ton of money
To be Iron
in
Man?
this ad. To basically be Robert Downey Jr. in this ad, but it's a wonderful ad. It's very surreal. I think it's a good branding move for HTC.
Anything else?
They need it.
Should we go on to what we've been testing? I played the wrong music. Lloyd, you have a bunch of board games on the table here.
Yes, some new, some not so new. Most of them are new, actually. This is probably the oldest game here. Love Letter. Norm's played this a lot.
Love this.
I've never heard of this
16
before.
cards.
Okay.
16 cards in this game. And what you're, the gist of this game is that you are one of the suitors for Princess, right?
Well,
but
for people just listening on the audio feed, what you're holding right now is like a velvet pouch
Right.
with embroidery.
Right.
Yellow
So-
embroidery, the red pouch,
gold embroidery.
gold embroidery says
Love
love letter, and the game is $10 online. It's,
Right.
it's cheap, but you get 16
$8.99.
cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And each card, there's a
There's a character, yes.
Yeah.
Th-
Is it
there-
yeah.
There's a character in each card. You only play with 15 of the cards. So the game changes a little bit each time. And the idea is you're trying to get this love letter to the princess, but you can only work through her counterpart or her assistants. You can't send the letter directly.
So is it kind of like Citadels or something like that, where the game
Okay, well,
changes a little bit each time?
The narrative is
No, it's a
kind
little
of
bit more like
besides the point.
Saboteur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What it is up 2 to 4 people can play, and each person holds a card, and then each turn you pick up a card and you
play a
discard a
card.
card. You
Yeah.
play a card, you pick up a card, play a card.
Right.
If you're at the end of the game, have the card with the highest value, you win. It's as simple as that.
Right.
It's very self-explanatory, very easy for people to learn and play.
Right.
But the best part is that there's this whole convoluted storyline about the characters and this narrative. And if you read the instruction manual, it's actually
And
worth the price of admission
each
alone.
little power that each character has is in line with that story, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
sort of very thematic. But the other thing is, like, the more powerful characters are worth less at the end of the game. So,
so
so it doesn't help you to like hold on to those guys, even though they may be more powerful. Or use them too soon. On the other hand, the character that's worth the most, if you are forced to discard it, you automatically are out of the game, out of the round. The
And
game
that's
is played
the-
multiple rounds.
And that's the princess.
So it's kind of like it is. This reminds me a lot of Citadels, like the mechanics of choosing the counter for what you think the other person's going to have, and all that is.
Right.
is
There's no role
similar.
selection like Citadels has, so, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Citadels, there's kind of a drafting thing
Right.
that happens.
And for such a simple game, it can get pretty complex.
right, there's a pretty strong metagame if you have 4 people going. It's really fun trying to read the other. It's a little bit like poker in a sense, and
So-
trying
so-
to guess what
card.
cards other people
But
have.
it sounds like a good game to introduce people to games
yes,
with.
it's
who
excellent,
maybe
and
don't
it
play
takes
games.
and
So
and
fast.
what is it? Is it it's played multiple rounds until the first person gets 4 points, basically.
Okay.
And but one game takes less than half an hour.
Oh, that's great.
And that's a long game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So that's Love Letter. It's a neat little game. $8.99 actually online. The other games I know this game I played off of this is a little tile-laying game called Volupsa.
And
what
like a
it is-
tiling
is-
game like Carcassonne or something
No,
like that?
well, in the sense that you lay the tiles adjacent to each other, but you can only lay them I think there's a limit to how many you can put in a row.
Okay.
And each tile, basically based on Norse mythology, each tile has different effects. Like if you have Loki, anybody put next to him is worth nothing. And then And then you count. You basically capture rows or columns, and then you count the number of tiles in that row or column. That's the number of points you get each time you lay.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And it gets mind bending if you have 3 or 4 players and you're trying to figure out what the next guy is going to play and whether you're planning ahead, but they're going to trump you. And it's a pretty cool little game. Good
And
thinking game.
that's called
Voluspa.
Valuspa.
How accurate do you find the time estimates for the games on the boxes?
These games, I think, that I have here are more or less accurate. The longer the game, the less accurate the time estimate.
Well, and if you're teaching someone, teaching, like usually I figure it's like a 1.5x multiplier for each person you're teaching.
Right. That's a fair estimate.
Yeah.
Because the estimates on the game box always assume that you already know how to play it.
Yeah,
and I mentioned that because the next game that you have on the table has a very specific
Yeah,
time.
it's called 8-Minute Empires. And actually, I read the rules. I haven't played this yet. It looks like you could actually play this in 8 minutes.
Okay. Really?
A round in 8 minutes.
So kind of like a
basically
zombie dice or
yeah,
something
basically
like
you have
that.
a little map. You have cards that you're playing. The cards allow you to move counters around on the map or put counters down. And then at the end of the game, you count up your cards. Your cards mean something. And you just basically it's like a tiny version of Risk almost, except it's card driven rather than the opposite.
Oh, that sounds good.
You collect cards.
So no dice.
No dice.
I like no dice.
Yeah. This I haven't played yet either. I just got this actually.
Oh, this is great.
Dungeon Roll.
Norm and
You
I
guys have
played this.
it, yes.
Yeah.
This is the Kickstarter box, which is a Mimic, right?
That is
know your D&D.
the box looks much better than I expected.
Right.
Well, did you just get it like yesterday or today or something?
About like 3 or 4 days ago.
I wonder where mine is.
And they're shipping now. And then they have all these really, really cool looking dice. Have you seen the actual dice?
I haven't seen the actual dice. The ones we had were all prototypes.
Right, these are what the actual dice
Ooh,
look
they
like.
turned out great.
Oh. How much is that on Kickstarter?
It was like $15, I think.
Yeah,
That's
it
real
was really
cheap.
cheap. It was really
For
inexpensive.
for all the dice you get, it's great.
Yep.
And they're crazy dice too. Like
Yep.
they have blood and gore and stuff on them. They're
Right.
really cool.
And
Very cool.
the basic price that I paid for got me the first expansion too. It's going to have this.
Oh,
expansion.
wonderful.
Oh, and it's in there, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it
There's
comes in.
character cards.
So the way that game works, it's a push your luck kind of game, and the rules that we read, which were printed on paper and written in Word, I think were a little raw. I think the later versions of the rules were much more clear. But yeah, you very much have to kind of choose when to pull. It's like a more complex version of Zombie Dice with
Right.
some other elements to it and some scoring and stuff
Yep.
like that. It's really good.
Yep. And then the last game is a new one from Matt Leacock, who did Forbidden Island.
And Pandemic, right?
Pandemic, right?
Yeah, I love Pandemic.
Forbidden Desert. For those of you who have seen the movie Flight of the Phoenix, if you know the reference.
Is that
this
the one
Flight
with
of
the
Phoenix.
A4s flying off of the...
No. This is the one where you're trapped in the desert and you have to find this old airplane and repair it and fly. So
Oh,
you
it's
can
not the one
escape
with
desert.
the little kid that flies the alien spaceship?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's
not at
shiny.
all. Anyway, it's got that same kind of Forbidden Island feel, multiple tiles that you're uncovering. You know, instead of the island sinking into the sea, you have the land being covered by the sands as this sandstorm moves through the thing.
So the thing I love about Forbidden Island is one of my favorite games to teach people, to kind of level up the kind of games
Right.
that they play, because it's relatively simple.
This fits a niche between Forbidden Island and Pandemic.
Okay, because Pandemic and Forbidden Island are basically the same mechanic.
Right.
Pandemic's just much, much more complex.
Right. So this notches it up a level.
Okay.
Because it adds a couple interesting little twists.
Have you played this yet or no?
No. I just finished reading the rules last night.
It says 2 to 5 players though, which is a nice spot to be.
Right, and if I recall, Forbidden Island was just 4? Is
No,
that right?
you can
Was
play
it
with 2.
5? Okay. No, I mean, but the maximum players.
I think it's just 4.
Yeah.
Because I think there's just 4 rolls.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is the fact that, once again, they shipped it in a tin. I don't like
You know, like
tins.
tins.
They don't stack?
Cardboard boxes.
They don't stack.
Yeah,
Yeah, they if you drop the box, I mean, the lid always pops off. You
it
know.
explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pandemic comes in a nice box.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. This is good
So,
stuff.
On the technology front,
Yeah, anything?
I'm building a PC for you guys, and the parts are starting to come in.
Ooh,
We'll
very
talk
cool.
about
that's
that.
exciting.
I'm taking a different twist. You know, usually we.
Well, let's not reveal it just
Okay.
yet.
No
Let's
spoilers.
there
wait
will be
till
a
September.
twist.
Can we talk about your home solar? Because I thought that article was fascinating.
Yes, we can.
So you did a solar install
5 years ago.
5 years ago now. you are feeding energy back into the grid and taking energy out of the grid.
Right.
You don't have batteries or any
no
inverters
batteries
or any of that business.
It's on the grid. Right?
Okay. You put what, six kilowatts?
Yes, 6 kilowatts at the panels. What comes out of the inverter is about a little less than 5.
Because of just the
Efficiency loss.
heat on the
Although
inverter.
one of your readers told me about microinverters, which suddenly has me sort of my antenna going.
So one of the things, so when you're doing this, the way you do it, you basically are on a different kind of rate plan with the power company.
You can choose
Okay.
to remain on your current plan, which or you can go to what they call a time of use plan, which basically they prorate everything, based on when you're using it and how much power you're generating. All that stuff.
So you have a smart meter,
Yeah.
and the rates are lower in the daytime when less people use electricity.
Well-
I assume like high on like 3 o'clock on summer
Right,
afternoons,
right, mhm.
and then low after midnight,
Right,
probably.
right, and they pay you more for the power you generate too.
So when you're generating power at the heat of at 3 p.m. when everybody's
Right.
cranking their air conditioner,
Right.
you're getting more money for your juice.
Right, if you're
But not when everyone's playing video games or watching Netflix at night.
Right. But he's not generating at night
Right,
with Netflix
exactly.
and video games.
So yeah, but I don't even remember at this point what plan we're on. But I just know that our rates have been going down, partly because of the solar panels. Initially, when I first installed it, my power bill. I remember I was that time editor of ET, right? And I had my own
Yeah.
lab, and I was running benchmarks all the time. So I had like 4 or 5 P4 systems going all the
Oh,
time.
that's
right?
not good.
Yeah.
So you don't need heat when you have
Right,
that.
right. My power bill for a year, and I had 2 daughters living at home and the whole 9 yards. So my power bill for a year was about $4,000 then, $4,500. After
For a
I
whole
ins-
year?
For a whole year. That's the annual power bill. Remember, I have a 5
That's
bedroom.
about how much. Yeah.
So I have a 2-story house, all that jazz. So after installing solar, my power bill went down to $1,400.
That's
That's
annually.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's without changing anything else, right? So over the years, I've done other things. I did a kitchen remodel. All the
Lights.
300-watt halogen lights went away, and I got LED bulbs. Both daughters in college, so gradually went down. It went down
So
first
get
to
rid of the
$1,200.
kids is the big tip.
Well, no, actually, doing the kitchen remodel was the biggest move. So
Okay.
then it went down to $1,200, and then it went down to $1,100, and last year it was $665.
Wow, you
That's
hit under
insane.
$1,000 a
Yeah.
year
Yep.
for power. That's so. My question for people, because a lot of people are interested, and they might want to put in solar
Right.
panels of their own.
Right.
The rebates are not all there anymore.
No, but the prices have dropped hugely. I mean, the price drops have more than made up for the loss of rebates.
So is this something you'd recommend? I mean, and how much like surface area do you need to make the most of it?
Well, it depends. I mean, the panels have gotten more efficient. You hear about the 50% efficiency. Forget that.
Yeah.
They've improved like 5 to 6%.
Okay.
In 5 years, in terms of actual stuff you buy off the shelf.
So meaning you get 6% more energy out of the
Right.
same size panel. That
Right.
you
Well,
would have 5
actually,
years ago.
I'm sorry. I'm understating it. It's up to like 10 to 12% better.
Okay.
So in other words, the same size panel that I have now that generates 215 watts per panel, I think, you can now get 330 watts.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I mean that means when you're buying panels, or
Right.
then
Now
you kind of
that's-
want to make
that's
sure
the
you get the
premium
new
panels.
ones. Yeah.
Now, the flip side of the coin is a lot of cheap Chinese panels are on the market, roughly 200 to 300 watts, usually towards the lower end of that. But you can buy a boatload of them from Home Depot for $18,000 for like an 8 kilowatt system.
Wow.
So, I mean, it depends on how much money you want to put into it, whether you want, how much area space you can devote, right? Because it does take a certain amount of physical area.
This seems like the kind of thing you don't want to do yourself, though.
Yeah, it's not a DIY project unless you can do your own electrical work. If you can do your own electrical work, you can install solar.
Well, when you say do your own electrical work, you don't mean change a light switch. You mean
I mean,
like
if you're
put
the
in
kind
a
of
panel.
right? If you're the
Yeah.
kind of guy who can put in a panel, then you're the kind of guy who can install. your
Yeah,
own solar.
that seems like a fair division.
Do you have any recommendations for local companies around here who
The company
do
that we
installs?
bought through, no, I really don't. The company we bought through got acquired by a bigger company, and their support seems fine. I mean, I called them a couple of times; they were responsive. The only reason I called them was because they have an online monitoring service that went down a couple of times, and they were very responsive. It turned out to be a networking issue usually. But in terms of the actual hardware, there's been no issues. I mean, I plotted sort of the decrease in power over time because it does decrease a little bit, and it's about in the expected limits. Instead of doing a maximum of 4.7 kilowatts on a sunny day, I'm doing like 4.3 to 4.
and there's the problem with San Francisco. We don't get too many sunny days.
Right.
Were you worried about what it was going to do to your roof?
No, why would I worry about that?
Well, I mean, there's another layer of stuff on your roof, right?
Right.
But it's
They're
like
just
raised up.
plastic panel. Yeah, they're raised up off the ground, and the mounts are designed so that if I have to put in a new roof, and I have like 30 more years left on my roof.
I don't want to jinx you here.
But if I had to do that, they're actually made to be easily removed, and you can do the roof and then stick them back on.
Oh, but then all the wiring and stuff remains, and
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just in conduits. So.
Okay. That was the big question I had. Is I'm near on a roof, and yeah.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. So solar power. Anything else?
Yeah, you'll get your most bang for the buck initially by just replacing all your old light bulbs.
I did that and saved $50 a month almost.
But they are expensive.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at 30, the thing I found was looking at your plan and seeing how you're being billed.
Right.
So by moving from one plan to another where we are in California, they charge a high premium when you go above what they consider the average use for your size, house, and neighborhood.
Right.
Which is always bullshit if you have computers and big TVs.
Right. Yes.
So moving to the time of service thing and shifting running the washing machine and stuff like that into the evening made a huge difference for us. And
turning off
computers
stuff during the day and turning off lights.
Yeah.
Right.
Very important.
Right. The other, because when we did our kitchen remodel, we went from 3 halogen lamps, which generated a total of 750 watts, to something like 16 LED floods that generate 250 watts.
Yeah, of light.
And more light.
Yeah.
More usable light. So.
Yeah, and looking at those old fixtures and the lights and things like that, like it pays to go through and evaluate that stuff. And changing can lights is not a hard thing to do if you're even moderately handy and can paint.
No. And if you have can lights already installed, the options there's still a wide variety of options. You can just buy replacement LED or CFL floods, right?
Yeah.
Or there are retrofit kits now that use the actual Cree things that look like,
really?
They make it look better. I mean, they look more flush with the ceiling and everything else. They have a little surround around them and stuff like that. And they are dimmable. They have the full sort of color spectrum thing.
So then you replace the facing on the can and the switch?
Mm-hmm.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're buying LEDs, just make sure you pay attention to the color temperature because you don't want flaming white blue.
Right. You don't want what's called daylight.
Yeah, daylight.
Which is actually close to daylight, but it's not what we want inside our house.
It's real blue.
Yeah.
It's real hard.
Yellow light inside.
There's actually I stumbled across a theory behind that. Why we like
warm lights?
Why we like actually they're cooler technically, but the 2700 degree.
Yeah.
Because as sort of primitive people, we like fire, which is that's roughly.
Fire's cool.
Yeah. Fire protected us from the darkness.
It keeps the wolves away.
Right.
I learned that from playing Brothers. I've been testing a speed booster. I bought a speed booster for my NEX. That's a Nikon one, and it's magical.
And how much is this?
It's like $430 maybe.
What is a speed booster?
So I'll just open it up so I can show you. But basically, what it is it's a little. It's a lens.
Adapter.
It's an adapter for the Sony E mount to, in this case, the Nikon G and F mount.
Okay.
And it has a lens that focuses the light that comes into the SLR lens onto the APS-C size sensor.
Okay.
So it helps with the crop a little bit, and it makes usually a full stop of extra light come in. So what it means is that my old f1.8 50 millimeter Nikon AIS lens is now not exactly an f.8, but kind of close.
Okay.
And I can get crazy wide aperture pretty much everywhere.
That's great.
Aperture also moves at a logarithmic scale, so it's not like just -1.
Right.
So you're going from 0.9 to 1.8 to 2.4. And
I think realistically, I would be shocked if I'm getting below 1.
You're about 1.
I'm going to end up at 1.
It doesn't change your effective depth of field that much, though, right?
It depends on the lens.
Sensor size.
Well, so the nice thing is with my bigger aperture lenses, like the old the 8200 sports zoom Nikon, you remember. That because I think it's like a 3.5 or a 4.2 or something. I can't remember. Is I'm getting much better depth of field on the wide on
it's
the
not
80
as
side
much
of that,
as
not
you
the
would
200 side.
with a bigger sensor. We're using a bigger lens, but there is going to be some vignetting and also some CA.
It depends on the lens, also.
Right.
It's been really nice. It's made the manual lenses usable by Gina without having. Because the problem with using non-specific lenses on these mirrorless cameras with APS-C sensor size is that the crop is real weird.
Which camera is it? I was reading about one of the new cameras. I can't remember who makes it now. But if you put a manual lens on it, it has this crosshatch thing that shows up on the LCD back.
Oh, really?
And as you're focusing, they line up, right?
Is it like the old Olympus one?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. But it sounds like a neat thing for manual lenses.
So I have a 5N, which does the edge. It does the edge autofocus. It does the edge peaking, so you can kind of see focus.
Okay.
But I mean, the nice thing about having the speed booster is I can close the aperture enough and still have enough light coming in that I can shoot in the middle range of any of the lenses that I use regularly, the 50 millimeter prime and the 28 millimeter prime, and have a big enough depth of field that I can shoot something like the dog or the baby or whatever.
Yeah, there's a rumor floating around that Nikon's going to revive the 50 millimeter f1.2.
That's a magical lens. I've looked at those. They're only like $800 on eBay, but it's also $800 for a 30-year-old manual lens,
right.
which is kind of
No,
crazy.
this would be a full G kind of lens.
But it's the same optics as the.
No. I mean, it's completely re-engineered, right?
Okay.
But it's a new lens. But there's been rumors flying around now that they're going to reintroduce it.
When I shot in high school for the paper, we had the 50 millimeter 1.2, and that was the good lens that everybody always fought over. It was a lot of fun. And Norm, anything for you?
No, we'll be doing a bunch of videos tomorrow about stuff.
You got a package yesterday.
Oh, we're not ready to talk
not
about
going to
that.
talk about that. It's on the forums. I guess that'll do it for what we've been testing. Let's take a question or two, and we'll call it a show. If you have a question for This Is Only Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Keep your questions short, under 45 seconds, and make it sound like you're not standing behind a 747 taking off. Our first question comes from Steve in Warrington, UK, and he has a question for Loyd. I'm looking for some recommendations for some good two-player board or card games that I can play with my wife. If those games can be played with more people, even better. So far, we've been playing Dominion a lot and have Carcassonne, Catan, and Ticket to Ride, not all of which are suitable for two players. A little hometown trivia: Warrington is the home of the first ever IKEA store opened in the UK.
Wow, it sounds like an email from Will from 2 years ago.
No, I was playing board games before 2 years ago.
No, but you had those board games, and you were playing with Gina.
Oh, that was probably 4 years ago, but yeah, same thing.
So do you think if he's playing Dominion that they could play, what am I thinking about?
Ascension or Thunderstone?
Well, no. The other one, the two-player card game that.
Oh, Netrunner?
Netrunner.
You know what? Netrunner is not a difficult game, except the instructions are bad.
Right.
That's the.
Well, there's a couple of great teaching videos online that really clarify a lot of stuff.
I wouldn't. This sounds like neophytes though, so I wouldn't recommend Netrunner.
I've never seen a good teaching video online, Lloyd. I've seen many of them. I've never seen a good one.
The Penny Arcade card game, deck building game, is really good for two players.
That's very similar to Ascension.
It is similar to Ascension.
This little game here that I talked about, but this little Tyler game. That's a good.
That sounded good for two players.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Jack, if you've never played that, is a fantastic two-player game. In that, you have to kind of use process of elimination to figure out who is. Well, one player plays as Jack the Ripper, and one player plays as an inspector in Scotland Yard, and you basically have to eliminate. It's a people-moving game,
right?
So you have to figure out which of the characters is. It's basically Smart Clue,
right?
For lack of a better term.
Yeah. And Lost Valley? No.
Lost in the Valley or
no? Crap.
I don't know that.
That's a good two-player game. I can't remember the name of it now.
Let's see. We play Citadels is a great two-player game. It's basically rolls and reversals, and you have to the more you know the person you're playing against, the better it is. It's two players only, though.
Right.
I think maybe it's
Citadels?
not.
No, it's not.
No, it's multiples.
But
Kingdom Builder, I like two players. It's a nice pace. And it varies dramatically over as you play with more players. As you play it more, like the boards are different every time. Power Grid is good with two players, but not great. I think Agricola is pretty good two players.
Yeah, that's fairly complicated though.
It is that's if you want to level up.
Mm-hmm.
I think Power Grid's a nice in between.
If you want a simple worker placement style game that's playable with two players, the D&D one, Loyd's Waterdeep. Actually, it's pretty decent with two players.
I haven't tried that with two players. I'm going through the picture in my closet of the board game pile. Forbidden Island is fantastic 2 players.
Yes.
It's really good.
And it's a co-op game, so you don't have to feel like you're beating on your
Exactly.
spouse.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, like Dominion, if you get Dominion, like Intrigue and probably not Prosperity, Cornucopia maybe.
Yeah, Cornucopia.
Like those are, I think, my 2 favorites, especially for 2 players, 2 favorite expansions.
Right.
And you'll have like 50 cards and you can have a good time. Anything else?
Some of the little card games like Slide 5, which is also called Six Nimmt.
Never
That's
seen
a
that
little
before.
numerical kind of strategy game. Very simple. I don't know if For Sale is a good. No, For Sale is probably not a good 2-player game.
No, Eminent Domain's great though.
Yes.
It's a good 2-player game and it scales up nicely. I think you can go up to 5.
4 and 5, I think, with the expansion.
Maybe it's 5 with the expansion. Yeah, deck building. It seems like you're in like it would. This is a question that if we knew whether you liked Dominion, Carcassonne, or Ticket to Ride best, we'd be able to steer you a little bit better.
Right.
But yeah, so there you go. That's the whole. There's like a dozen choices there. Go nuts. And if you have more questions, post on the forums, and we'll kind of get into some more specifics. That goes for all of you, I guess. A couple more questions. Anthony from West Dundee, Illinois says, I would like to surprise my wife with a Kindle this Christmas. Neither of us have ever owned or used a Kindle, and I don't even think she has an Amazon account. I do have an Amazon account. I'll probably get one for myself as well. Ideally, I'd like to preload some books on it for her, but is there a way to do that while maintaining the surprise, or should I just leave it raw dog and let her set up her own Amazon account and purchase stuff when I give it to her?
So you can have more than one Kindle on one account.
You can have like 20
5.
Kindles
Well,
on one account.
technically, you can have 5 that actually have the same set of books on them, I think, if I remember correctly.
Well, there some of the publishers have different per device limits.
Right.
He also wants to know if he can just share an account with his wife. So, I mean, I share an account with my wife. It works great.
Right.
You can now even reset your place in the book so that if one of you reads a book and finishes it and the other one starts reading the same book, it doesn't always, when you open the book, say, hey, your last position was the end of this book. Do you want to go there now?
Right.
And then you lose your place.
Can you buy a Kindle with X books in your account just a certain number of books?
No, but it's really very easy to just buy them and say, download to this. You can actually create your Kindle account even before you can activate your Kindle account and turn it on once, and then you can turn it off, and then it'll auto download.
As soon as you buy the Kindle, as soon as they ship it, it starts showing up on your account.
Right.
So then you can buy the book on Amazon and
send to.
It'll say
certain-
where if you have more than one
Right.
device hooked up, it'll say where
Right.
do you want to send it, and you can send it to there.
Right.
And the other beautiful thing about the Kindle stuff is that you can send books to your phone. So if you spend time on public transit or whatever, and don't carry your Kindle with you everywhere,
Right.
it's good. He also asks about which model to get. I think
Paperwhite.
the Paperwhite is the only thing I would buy right
Yes.
now.
It's been a while since they've.
It doesn't matter.
They're coming out with new ones
Yeah.
supposedly in about a month.
But like the
So-
things that they're going to add, it'll be incremental. And
So wait for new ones and see.
oh yeah, for Christmas, wait until the new
Yeah.
ones come out.
Right.
But
But-
the Paperwhite is sturdy. It's great.
Right.
I
I
don't-
like it a lot.
Buy if you're worried about beating it up in a bag or something, buy a sleeve for it. But I don't have a case on mine. It's not necessary.
Take it to the beach.
Got one more question, and actually, I don't think we have one more question. I'm out. So that'll do it for us this week. Stuff on the site. We did some more Oculus gaming last week. There's some wildly inappropriate stuff in there.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
I don't think it's wildly inappropriate.
it's a little bit inappropriate. We haven't gotten in trouble on YouTube yet, so we're probably okay.
I wouldn't even. If you're a prude.
There is. We played my favorite game on Oculus on the stream. So I went through and tested all the stuff that's commercially released, like that are commercially released games. And I think Lunar Flight is the best one that I've played so far.
It's like a lunar lander-ish game.
Have you played Lunar Flight, Loyd?
No.
It's a game where you fly a LEM analog
Okay.
from the future with missiles and flares and stuff. And you're like a space trucker kind of. So you have to fly your LEM from base to base on the moon, and occasionally there are bandits and things like
okay.
that. But the thing that the guy who made the game did really well is he built a virtual cockpit for it.
Okay.
So you're sitting in the chair in the center of this big open glass dome, and you can kind of look to the right and left at all the different screens and controls. Look at the screen above you. Look at the screen at your feet, and it makes the game it's like a hard game to play, when you're using a monitor, keyboard, and mouse with the gamepad and the screen to control all the fiddly bits of the simulation. It's much easier.
No joystick support?
I didn't have a joystick. I don't have a flight stick anymore. I got rid of it.
People have also recommended Altera. Don't know what that is.
Well, another one is iRacing, which I didn't have time to download the 5 or 6 gigs or whatever it is. It's a hardcore racing sim that has cockpit support as well. So, and we played Half-Life 2. And then
The
a
worst
bunch
part of
tech
Half-Life 2
demos.
with
It
this,
was the worst part of
to
Half-Life 2.
demonstrate the worst part of Half-Life 2.
Well, it was just where I was, but
But yeah, coincidentally, demonstrating the worst
Yeah,
part
it
of the
was
Half-Life 2
pretty
with
bad.
the Oculus.
Which part was that?
it's the part where you just get in the boat and you have all the physics puzzles to do.
Oh, right.
Remember how awesome those physics puzzles were in 2003?
They're not anymore.
No. So I guess that'll do it for us this week. Anything else we want to talk about on the site? Not really. We'll be back next Thursday with another edition of This Is Only Test. As always, Lloyd, do you have anything you want to plug? I'm sorry, I usually ask.
Nope, nothing this week.
Okay.
Just follow me on Twitter.
At Loyd Case with
Yep.
one L.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
We'll be back next Thursday with another edition of This Is Only a Test. Today's outro, by the way, if you want to send an outro in, search for raw outro song file and follow the instructions in that thread. It's from Minker17. Here it is. Hi there, I didn't see you.
Test it.
I can go for a really long time. Even for going for a really long time, it's still only like 4 hours. He had an extra beat in there. There was an extra beat. There was an extra.
Creative license.
One extra. I don't know how I feel about that. We'll see you guys next week.